How to put the legend outside the plot. I have a series of 20 plots, not subplots, to be made in a single figure. I want the legend to be outside of the box. At the same time, I do not want to change the axes, as the size of the figure gets reduced. I want to keep the legend box outside the plot area. I want the legend to be outside at the right side of the plot area. Is there a way that I reduce the font size of the text inside the legend box, so that the size of the legend box will be small?
You can make the legend text smaller by specifying set_size of font properties, resources. Legend guide, matplotlib.legend, matplotlib.pyplot.legend, matplotlib.font_manager, set_size self, size, valid font size are extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, extra large, larger, smaller, and none. Real Python plotting with matplotlib guide. Font size equals extra small also works, without importing font properties.
There are a number of ways to do what you want. To add to what Christian, Alice and Navi already said, you can use the bbox_to_anchor keyword argument to place the legend partially outside the axes and or decrease the font size. Before you consider decreasing the font size, which can make things awfully hard to read, try playing around with placing the legend in different places. So, let's start with a generic example. If we do the same thing, but use the bbox_to_anchor keyword argument, we can shift the legend slightly outside the axis boundaries. Similarly, make the legend more horizontal and or put it at the top of the figure. I'm also turning on rounded corners and a simple drop shadow. Alternatively, shrink the current plot's width, and put the legend entirely outside the axis of the figure. Note, if you use tight_layout, then leave out ax.set_position. And in a similar manner, shrink the plot vertically, and put a horizontal legend at the bottom. Have a look at the matplotlib legend guide. You might also take a look at plt.figlegend.
Placing the legend, bbox_to_anchor. A legend is positioned inside the bounding box of the axis using the lock argument to plt.legend. For example, lock equals upper right places the legend in the upper right corner of the bounding box, which by default extends from 0, 0, to 1, 1, in axes coordinates, or in bounding box notation, x0, y0, width, height, equals 0, 0, 1, 1. To place the legend outside of the axes bounding box, one may specify a tuple, x0, y0, of axes coordinates of the lower left corner of the legend. A more versatile approach is to manually specify the bounding box into which the legend should be placed, using the bbox_to_anchor argument. One can restrict oneself to supply only the x0, y0 part of the bbox. This creates a zero-span box, out of which the legend will expand in the direction given by the lock argument. For example, places the legend outside the axes, such that the upper left corner of the legend is at position 1.04, 1, in axes coordinates. Further examples are given below, where additionally the interplay between different arguments like mode and calls are shown. Details about how to interpret the for-tuple argument to bbox_to_anchor, as in L4, can be found in this question. The mode equals expand expands the legend horizontally inside the bounding box given by the for-tuple. For a vertically expanded legend, see this question. Sometimes it may be useful to specify the bounding box in figure coordinates instead of axes coordinates. This is shown in the example L5 from above, where the bbox_transform argument is used to put the legend in the lower left corner of the figure. Post-processing. Having placed the legend outside the axis often leads to the undesired situation that it is completely or partially outside the figure canvas. Solutions to this problem are: adjust the subplot parameters. One can adjust the subplot parameters such that the axes take less space inside the figure, and thereby leave more space to the legend, by using plt.subplots_adjust. For example, leaves 30% space on the right-hand side of the figure, where one could place the legend. Tight layout. Using plt.tight_layout allows to automatically adjust the subplot parameters such that the elements in the figure sit tight against the figure edges. Unfortunately, the legend is not taken into account in this automatism, but we can supply a rectangle box that the whole subplot's area, including labels, will fit into. Saving the figure with bbox_inches equals tight. The argument bbox_inches equals tight to plt.savefig can be used to save the figure such that all artists on the canvas, including the legend, are fit into the saved area. If needed, the figure size is automatically adjusted. Automatically adjusting the subplot parameters. A way to automatically adjust the subplot position such that the legend fits inside the canvas without changing the figure size can be found in this answer: creating figure with exact size and no padding, and legend outside the axis. Comparison between the cases discussed above. Alternatives. A figure legend. One may use a legend to the figure instead of the axis, matplotlib.figure.figure.legend. This has become especially useful for matplotlib version 2.1 or later, where no special arguments are needed. To create a legend for all artists in the different axes of the figure. The legend is placed using the lock argument, similar to how it is placed inside an axis, but in reference to the whole figure, hence it will be outside the axis somewhat automatically. What remains is to adjust the subplots such that there is no overlap between the legend and the axis. Here the point adjust the subplot parameters from above will be helpful. An example. Legend inside dedicated subplot axis. An alternative to using bbox_to_anchor would be to place the legend in its dedicated subplot axis, lax. Since the legend subplot should be smaller than the plot, we may use gridspec_kw equals width_ratios column, 4, 1, at axis creation. We can hide the axes lax.axis off, but we still put a legend in. The legend handles and labels need to obtain from the real plot via l equals ax.get_legend_handles_labels and can then be supplied to the legend in the lax subplot, lax.legend l. A complete example is below. This produces a plot which is visually pretty similar to the plot from above. We could also use the first axis to place the legend, but use the bbox_transform of the legend axis. In this approach, we do not need to obtain the legend handles externally, but we need to specify the bbox_to_anchor argument. Further reading and notes. Consider the matplotlib legend guide with some examples of other stuff you want to do with legends. Some example code for placing legends for pie charts may directly be found in answer to this question. Python, legend overlaps with the pie chart. The lock argument can take numbers instead of strings, which make calls shorter, however, they are not very intuitively mapped to each other. Here is the mapping for reference.
Just call legend after the plot call like this. Results would look something like this.
If you want to see more, please consider subscribing.